The middle class and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today.
Are you graduating high school soon and wondering what to do next? College is one option, but why not consider the high-paying jobs made possible by union power? Labor Union Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get you into the high school to high-paying job pipeline. You'll learn all the skills needed to excel in opportunities across industries. Visit 1932trainingscenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingscenter.org.
Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Going to start off with the Oath Keeper guy, the White Bin Laden. Stuart Rhodes, founder and leader of the Oath Keepers, sentenced today to 18 years in prison. I thought should have been double that. We don't often convict people of seditious conspiracy. You know, I always thought, growing up, sedition is one of those things where they drag you out back and, did what right-wingers want to do a lot of. In fact, was it South Dakota that brought back, or is it South Carolina that brought back firing squads? But here's the thing, this is one of those moments. 18 years, it's not nothing. It's a good start. Also, one of his cohorts, a guy named Kelly. Kelly Megg's his name. He's the leader of the Oath Keeper Florida chapter. He was found guilty, also 12 years for seditious conspiracy. And again, could have doubled that. Would have been perfectly happy with that. In fact, should have. These sentences should have been much greater. Should have been much greater. Now, end of the month, I understand potentially going to get this Enrique Tarrio. He was the former head of the Proud Boys. Yes, the Proud Boys. Going to be sentenced late, I guess later in the year. He was found guilty earlier this month. We will find out what happens there. Now, this is the weird thing because you've got a couple of presidential candidates. Trump said he would think about pardoning all these criminals. Ron DeSantis is now saying that he would consider pardoning all of these criminals and Trump. So this is the interesting part of this. The interesting part of this is he's by saying that he would pardon Trump means that he thinks Trump did something wrong. Now, remember, this guy was a former JAG person, not JAG. I'm not going to do it. This guy's a former lawyer. He knows supposedly this stuff, and in his mind, Trump did something that worthy of pardon, and he would consider doing that just because he wants Trump's voters. Now, I just think it's hysterical that all of the right has bought into this, and I was sitting here thinking about this today because this is one of those moments where I guess being a little bit older, I remember what it was like 20 or 30 years ago. If someone was convicted of seditious conspiracy 20, 30, 40 years ago, 95% of this country would be calling for the most draconian of penalties. The 5% that would not be would be the criminals. This is the weird space that we're in. Just because of the red hat or the blue hat, or he's behind Trump. He was trying to get Trump. He was trying to get Trump still in the White House. This is one of those moments where we're in a really screwy place. Because, I don't know, seditious conspiracy is a pretty big freaking deal that we used to that we used to, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but we used to be on kind of the same page on this stuff. And now the weird thing is you've got presidential candidates saying, not a big deal. We'll get rid of them. And it's this kind of weird both sidesism that's really screwing this country up, because there's no more right or wrong anymore, it doesn't seem. There's no more, yeah, they tried to overthrow the government. They should be dealt with appropriately. No, but they were doing it for what they thought was a good reason. They believed they were patriots, watering the tree. You know, the tree of liberty, because they're patriots and they're afraid of tyrants. So they had goodness in their hearts. Nonsense. Wrong. They should be serving maximum sentences. And look, this is one of those things where I would want them put in Guantanamo Bay, or even if Jeffrey Epstein's former cell is open, send them there. Now the weird thing is, I couldn't help but think of, CNN having Trump give his little spiel, and now they're going to have Nikki Haley, and I guess there are going to be a couple of other coming down the road. Mike Pence is going to have one. My mind went to, when does CNN have Stuart Rhodes, the white bin Laden, doing his announcement from jail? When does that happen? Because CNN's just lost their minds. And they're paying for it because literally everyone is turning away from them. And this is the weird space that we're in. That there are no common, we hear a lot of people talk about common sense. Well, common sense is common. It's got to be common, held amongst most people, and we don't seem to have that anymore. It's really trying, because look, I get a lot of emails from people who want to, oh, you're lying, this would never happen. You're lying. You made this up. I'm going, no, it's right here. I source my stuff. For instance, they're saying, you're lying. You Republicans don't really want to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and food stamps, and social programs. They really don't want to take the food out of the mouths of children. They really don't want to do any of that stuff, except they do. How do you not go? It's here. It's in writing. The Republican Study Committee. It's in writing. They want to cut these programs down to virtually nothing. Where do you think the money then comes from to feed people, or to help the elderly stay in nursing facilities, or down the line of things that we as a society have said are what we agree on? I'm in this weird spot, and it's getting weirder. I mean, things are most certainly getting weirder. Like Ron DeSantis evidently doesn't even know how to pronounce his own name, which I guess was a story today. That he, I guess, has flipped and flopped and back and forth on how he pronounces his name. Is it DeSantis or DeSantis? I don't know. It did remind me of a couple of years ago here in Pennsylvania, where I live. We had a gubernatorial candidate. His name was Dan Honorado. I even forgot his name. His name was Dan Honorado. And one of the ads that he ran on television was he was holding a card with his name spelled on it. He was pronouncing it for people. My name is Dan Honorado. And it was one of those things where if you have to teach people how to pronounce your name, you're probably going to lose. And sadly, he did. Now, DeSantis thinks, or DeSantis, whichever it is, he seems to think it's not going to be on names or any of that. It's going to be on policy. He's going to win on policy. And that he's a tough guy, except he's neither got the policy chops or the tough guy image. So gonna be fun. Gonna be fun to see where this goes. Now, the big Twitter launch that we talked about yesterday, wow, the reviews are in. Not good. Not good. The Telegraph, the headline was, crackling voices that sounded like a pre-war wireless. DeSantis launch marred by Twitter shambles. Yahoo, DeSantis debacle. Twitter Spaces presidential announcement marred by technical problems. Reuters, Ron DeSantis joins White House race, tripped up by chaotic Twitter launch. The Daily Beast, very online and very glitchy. DeSantis announces for president. Another one, DeSantis blows up on the launch pad. That was one of my favorites. And the thing is even the National Review jumped into this saying, it made no sense going to Twitter. So for me, it's one of those things where you go, it's those first decisions. I knew Al Gore was in big trouble when he ran for president because he chose Trader Joe Lieberman. I knew Barack Obama was going to fall short of my hopes and dreams of rewarding work and getting labor legislation pushed through when he chose the guy with a couple of fingers from Chicago, Rahm Emanuel. You knew that was going to be bad, and so on. You see by the choices that they make, what kind of leader they're going to be. And I'll tell you, DeSantis is not going to be good. And I don't think he's got a snowball's chance of winning. Even if Trump does get indicted, which it's increasing looking like he might. We'll see. Now there is a silver lining here for Democrats at least. Because now all of the attention is going to be off of Joe Biden and off of his inability to really get words out as well as he would like. All the attention is going to be on DeSantis and all the nonsense. And the fact that the Mexican president told Florida Hispanics to not one person vote for DeSantis over his policies, over what he's done to migrants, over the treatment of Mexican Americans. And look, you surprised? Now, as I understand, I think June 6th is the day when no Hispanic is supposed to drive into Florida. The truckers are going to have like a little strike thing going, which good on them. This is what the right did when the vaccine things happened. So going to be interesting to see where this plays out. But I'm in this spot, and I want to get your thoughts as well. Is there a way to find that middle of the road that once existed? I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about the Eisenhower era, because I do quote Eisenhower an awful lot. He was, as I said, by today's standards, he was a socialist Republican. He could have run as a Democrat, but the difference between him and Adlai Stevenson were minuscule. The differences between Johnson and Nixon weren't that great. I mean, Nixon brought us the EPA that Republicans are now destroying. Brought us OSHA, which Republicans now are trying to destroy. There hadn't been a lot of difference between the parties. They were strong on workers' rights. They were strong on labor rights. They were strong on some social policies. They just had different ideas of how to do them. And this is where the mindset has always been. And I still want to believe that even Republican voters, not the leadership, not the people who are vying for their 30 seconds on Fox News or their attention for whatever nonsense clip they can throw out to go viral, but actual voting people. I still believe that we all want the same things. It's just, which path do you take? How do you get there? We all want safe neighborhoods for our families, good schools for our kids, retirement security for our workers, good wages to support families that generationally do better one after the other. And this is one of those weird moments because, my grandparents knew that their children were going to do better than they did. My parents' generation believed that our generation was going to do better. I believed my kids were going to do better. But that compact is breaking down. And a lot of people don't feel that way, which is why there's so much tension and chaos. At least I think so. But I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So here's some interesting news. Evidently, Kevin McCarthy, after the votes today, are going to let everyone go home, let the Republicans go home for recess. I know the Democrats will probably go too. The holiday, not much is going to get done. Yeah, go ahead, go enjoy the weekend. There's nothing going on. Don't worry. There's not the end of the economy and a global collapse and calamity going on. No, don't worry. The clock's not ticking. We can take a pause. It'll be okay. Yeah, let's go to the phones. Got Alice on one. Alice, how are you?
Totally insane. How's that for you?
Back to normal. I'm glad to hear.
Yes. Well, I want to say, I really liked your southern accent drawl you was doing. You must have been spending time in West Virginia. But don't even get me started. But what I wanted to say was, you were saying, is there a way to draw us back together? And I honestly don't think so at this point, because the right wing has become so convinced that it's religion, the lack thereof, that's causing the issues, that it's these transgender people, it is the gays and lesbians, it's the other races. These are all the problems that are causing what they see as why they're not getting ahead, which of course it's complete and utter lies. The problem is they have become, to put it mildly, they're in another universe and they've been brainwashed into believing things, and they're voting against their own best interest because they're all crazy.
Well, thanks for cleaning that up. I knew you. I felt you were going somewhere with that. Thanks for cleaning it up, Alice. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm totally, like I said, I'm totally crazy again. I had to deal with West Virginia again because that's not how we do it in West Virginia because I still don't have death certificates yet.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So they've sent me insane, So now everything I'm going, oh, hey, that's not how we do it in West Virginia. I've got a regular comedic thing going. But I'll talk to you later, Rick.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate it. No, I mean, this is I believe that I still want to believe that there are things we agree on. And Alice isn't wrong. I mean, the reality is we've been ripped apart on all of these different issues. And torn apart. And look, it's not new. None of this stuff is new. None of this stuff is, oh my gosh, I didn't know this existed. It's all been here before. It's a matter of how much outrage candy they're shoving down our throats and how much we're consuming of it and how much we're tolerating it. I said yesterday, and I got a bunch of people responding to my comments on the Target situation where, there are people who are going into Target harassing employees because there's something on the shelf that they don't agree with. And everyone loved the fact that I'm okay with there being broccoli and cauliflower and asparagus on the shelf, even though I despise those things. I hate those things. I shouldn't have to look at those things. Now, in the crazy right-wing world, I should be protesting the supermarket to take those off the shelves. Those are bad. I mean, this is how crazy we've gotten, but there are people going into Target harassing customers and workers over things that are on the shelf that somebody may want to buy. Not them. They don't have to buy it. They can walk right on by, like I do the asparagus. But it's this, you have to think the way I do. And as I said a minute ago, I get a bunch of emails from folks who are going, well, you're lying. I'm lying because I don't see things the way you do, as narrowly as you do. I don't listen to the same information. I don't sit on the can, watching YouTube videos with my mouth open and call that research. No, I don't. I'm in this frustrating point because, we all want to be right. And reality doesn't seem to matter anymore. And this is where I think having conversations and going back and forth with each other in public spaces, face to face, is a good thing. Now, the weird thing is, again, we live in alternative realities. And I look at the RNC chair, Rona McDaniel. Rona said that Rona believes that if we default, if the country defaults on its debt obligations, it's going to bode very well for the Republican field. Because, again, they do projection like nobody else. So, even if it's going to be horrible for Republicans, you go, no, this is going to be the greatest thing ever for us. We've got to do this. This is great. I mean, you just had Matt Gaetz saying, we're not going to negotiate with the hostages. No. You and me, the hostages. And you've got McDaniel, who's the head of the RNC, saying, no, this is going to be good for us. Digging in, saying, no, this is going to be good. And why is it going to be good? Because truthfully, I believe the American people are tired of the Republican shtick. They're not as popular as they think they are. They're not as, they always tell you, when I was playing baseball and when I was playing sports in general, they always said, don't read the press clippings. You're never as bad or as good as someone says you are, especially not as good. And this is one of those moments where Republicans have built themselves up to believe that they're the righteous, that they're right on everything, that they've got the best ideas and all of this. And they're trying to project that on everyone else when the reality is the polling on the things that they have done, not popular at all. This pushing this anti-LGBTQ agenda that they're fixated on. I mean, seriously, they're fixated on what people are doing within the confines of their four walls with consenting adults, as if, and this is one of those weird things, if I can, just for a minute, because it's always interesting to me that the people who are, complaining about one thing and they're fixated on it, that's generally something that they're doing. So it seems to me, with all this fetishizing of other people's sex lives, there's something lacking in their own. This hyper anti-abortion position that the GOP has taken. It's odd how, when a congressman gets his girlfriend or his mistress into trouble, first club out of the bag is, hey, how about go get an abortion? It's really quite remarkable. But we're just not holding them accountable. The American people are much more moderate than the extremists want you to believe. People want to go to work and have a decent job. They want to have good pay and benefits and safety on the job. They want to be able to save for retirement. They want to be able to help their kids. They want to be able to lead a life. They don't want to be at each other's throats. And our politics, and this is because the Republicans know their ideas are so unpopular, they either have to turn people off so they stay away, or they need to really ramp things up to tick people off, to vote out of anger. And they do this stuff masterfully. It's like we were talking yesterday about the gun issue. Every one of the gun training people I know, they're the first thing they're going to tell you is there's danger around every corner. MS-13s around every corner. There's a gang of marauding, gang-banging thugs coming for your children. Carry guns everywhere. And if you hear this enough, if you saturate yourself enough with this fear, what do you think you're going to do? I mean, I know people who sit and listen to podcasts on how they can defend themselves and get away with it, and all the things that they should do when bad things happen, because bad things are going to happen, and you've got to know what to do. It's crazy what we've allowed to have happen. All the while, you've got the Republican Party, who I say, Republicans hate working people. Look at what they do. Trying to destroy this country, trying to throw us off a cliff. Not just me, but you and your kids and your family. This debt debacle, this is ridiculous. These people are fiscally irresponsible, and should not be allowed anywhere near a budget, let alone taking this far down the road. Want to hear your thoughts, though. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1934. That was the day trucking bosses and leading Teamsters in Minneapolis reached a tentative agreement after a tumultuous week of fighting in the city market. Strikers won many of their demands, including union recognition and the reinstatement of all strikers. Such a thorough victory at the Battle of Deputies Run earlier in the week had shaken the city's elites to their core. As the dust settled on the picket lines, Governor Floyd Olson had called a 24-hour truce in an effort to organize negotiations. The debacle of Ohio National Guardsmen attacking Toledo strikers had reached Minneapolis. Fears of a growing red menace fueled demands for a settlement, prompting Olson to order National Guardsmen into the city's armories armed to the teeth. Historian Brian Palmer, author of Revolutionary Teamsters, The Minneapolis Trucker Strikes of 1934, observed that the May 25th deal settled the strike quickly enough, but final victory would be postponed. Strike leaders had to choose which concessions to make under immense pressure from state politicians, intractable employers, and federal mediators. They also worked to avoid a potentially deadly confrontation with the National Guard. Above all, they demanded union recognition, agreed to arbitration of future disputes, and withdrew the demand for a closed shop. There was no contract, and the inclusion of inside workers proved contentious. Palmer adds the gains were limited but real enough, as strike leaders spelled out what had begun as a violent assault on strikers ended with workers fighting in their own interests, learning that they had only their union to rely on. The open shop offensive was defeated, and union recognition was won. In the weeks ahead, it would become clear the fight was far from over. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter @laborhistoryin2.
If poobahs of the National Democratic Party wonder why working class families, which once formed the party's solid base of political support, have gone astray, they might ponder the awful message they're sending by constantly smooching Senator Joe Manchin's tail. The multimillionaire West Virginia coal baron and anti-democratic Democrat is demanding that a massively polluting pipeline named Mountain Valley be rammed through rivers, watersheds, national parks, and down the throats of the people of West Virginia, Virginia, and North Carolina. Why? Money. The senator's fossil fuel funders, who own the project, want the federal government to mandate construction of their corporate boondoggle. For a decade, gutsy grassroots groups have rebelled and defeated these Wall Street profiteers, and the people of this Appalachian region are still adamantly opposed. But here comes Biden to rescue Manchin and his fossil fuelers with a dirty backroom deal overruling the will of the people. Proclaiming that he wants to advance America's conversion from fossil fuels to renewable energy, Biden is pushing a bill to make it easier and faster to get federal approval for new energy projects. Fine, but his bill specifically greases the skids for more fossil fuel projects. And guess which one is the first in line for quick approval? Yes, Brother Joe Manchin's Mountain Valley Pipeline. Pumping frack gas through 3 states would produce a mess of leaks and spills, but the project would also emit some 40 million metric tons of planet-warming gas a year, equivalent to the annual pollution of 10 coal plants. As the Natural Resources Defense Council puts it, we won't build the clean energy economy of the future by doubling down on the dirty fuels of the past. This is Jim Hightower saying, for information and action on this raw deal, connect with Appalachian Mountain Advocates, appvoices.org.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
I still think it's funny, and I remember that, was it Jesus Gunn's baby woman from Georgia, who evidently believes now that there are globes everywhere. There's a conspiracy going on. They want you to believe the world is round because there's just globes everywhere. Globes everywhere. Other than it just being completely ridiculous and totally outrageous, it's just sad. It just said. And here to share some thoughts on the top stories of the day, like this, like the Jesus, Guns, and Babies woman. I've asked our good friend Sarah Burst to come talk with us. Sarah's a reporter over at Raw Story, rawstory.com, the website. Sarah, thanks for taking time for us.
Hello, happy Thursday.
Jesus, Guns, and Babies.
I wonder how many people have watched those Elon Musk rocket launches. Because I think that would be a really interesting question to ask him. Be like, look, a lot of people on Twitter are talking about how the Earth is flat. What do you think? I would just be very curious how he would answer that question.
Maybe he would just sit there and stare at you for 2 minutes.
Right? I mean, I can see that happening where he's just like stares at you and then quotes The Princess Bride.
I am broke.
Right?
Malfunction.
Something really random.
Well, let's talk. Since you brought up Musk, yeah, how epic of a fail was the DeSantis launch? How big of a screw up was that?
What is it that they called when the rocket blew up and they were like it was a successful failure or something like that? Something ridiculous.
Mid-air dismantle, something like that.
Yeah. A calculated failure.
No, it was an aerial dismantle.
Yeah. Basically, it was that. It was failure to launch is what kept flashing on the screen, which is my favorite ever because it's like, oh, in so many ways. In so many ways. Oh. And I mean, what they kept saying is, oh, we have so many people that are on this and that's why it's crashing. And it's like, there's 700,000 people on it and you've got, was it like 100,000 or 100 million people use Twitter? So I'm concerned if your platform can't handle 700,000 people at once.
Yeah, because what did someone say? Like 800,000 people watch, kittens riding watermelons or some stupid nonsense like that.
Well, there was 850,000 people tuned in for BuzzFeed to blow up a watermelon.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah. Which in many ways is a lot like what we watched with Ron DeSantis' campaign.
Oh, but here's the thing. The big story that came out of it is he would consider freeing the January 6th criminals, of which are White Bin Laden, Stuart Rhodes, sentenced to 18 years in prison today, and the guy named Kelly got 12 years.
I think that's a really important thing that people know because now it's very clear that Ron DeSantis is willing to support domestic terrorism, and we know it.
Our White
I'm
Bin
just
Laden.
saying it.
No, I mean this is but Trump said the same thing, and this is the weird place that we're in because I think I remember a time when if someone was convicted of seditious conspiracy, which is a very serious charge, that the majority, I mean the vast majority, like 90-95% of the people would go, yeah, string them up.
Right, and I think the thing with Donald Trump is, I mean, he could be at like a concentration camp with Hitler and Hitler'd be like, oh, you're such a great leader. And he'd be like, well, Hitler's a very good friend of mine.
Hitler loves me.
Yeah.
Did you see that weird Truth Social thing that he put out after DeSantis's failure? Did you see that weird thing?
It's literally everything he puts out, Rick. Like everything is the weird Truth Social thing he puts out.
No, I mean, this was really, really where he calls him Rob instead of Ron.
Yeah.
He goes, my red button is bigger, better, stronger, and is working. Truth. And then yours does not, per my conversation with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, soon to become my friend. What the hell is that?
I don't understand.
Why are we not going, this guy needs to be tested. This guy, there's something mentally going on here. Help him.
And that is exactly why all of the right-wing media and every other right-wing pro-Trump person talks about Joe Biden having dementia, because Donald Trump actually does.
That's the projection.
Or it's that GIF with the cat who's pounding on the keyboard. It's that. That's pretty much what it seems like.
Now, look, Biden isn't the greatest orator either, and I'm the first to admit it. But I think he's all there. I think he's got some linguistic problems. He's never been Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. I think he's all there, and I love the fact that he's doing good things. But it will be an interesting debate season if you've got Biden on one side and Trump on the other. Just I don't know.
And the thing is like Biden has a stutter, and so it's very clear. I think
know.
it's like R and P letters are the ones where you can see he's supposed to say one word and then he just changes it very quickly, which is the tools that they give you whenever you're doing speech therapy to be able to get through a stutter. And so it's just it's like you can see it when it's happening and you can understand it. At the same time, I feel like he is always trying to be this very steady, calming sort of hand where he's like, nobody freak out. Everything's okay. The room might be on fire, but the firemen are coming. We're going to put it out, right? And Trump is just going to be like, fire, yay! You know, let's have more.
That's about the size of it. Now look, everybody who's going to send me mean emails and tell me that I'm mean to Joe Biden, I think Joe Biden himself would tell you he is not the greatest orator in the world. But policy wise, the guy is banging, and that's I don't care if he can. I don't care if he just stands up there and waves. It's the policies that I'm interested in.
And the steadiness, like the safety. I feel very safe as an American that his hand is on the button and not Donald Trump's, because Trump would be like, fire, yay, right?
Let's nuke a hurricane.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really not safe. And I think that there's a lot of people who are cool with that because they're like, yeah, let's nuke something. Let's, there's something weird out there. Let's shoot it and see what it does. But, it's like that does not work.
Is that how they talk in Oklahoma?
Well, I've been watching Skinwalker Ranch.
All right. Now I know. All right, there you go.
And see, it's like it's like every time they see something weird, they're like, let's shoot a rocket at it and see what happens, And it's like, this feels like every weekend in my childhood.
Look, and there's nothing wrong with that unless you're the leader of the free world and could cause the lives of millions of people. Now, speaking of weird and bizarre, you wrote a piece this week that I found extremely important. I did not know there was a documentary coming out on Amazon about the Duggars, the Brood and Counting group. Was this shiny, happy people? Should be more like shady, crooked people. But thoughts? I mean, do we need more of this?
So what's funny is when you're talking about, you wrote a weird story this week. I thought you were going to talk about the UFO story I wrote, because I really did write a UFO story.
No, that one was good. That was much better than this one.
But the interesting thing about the Duggar, that frankly I didn't know, is I knew the whole piece about Josh Duggar as a child molester and a pedo and a creeper. I knew that there were a lot of issues with the family and that they're very right wing. It sort of deals with the church that they're a part of.
Yeah, they're part of the Quiverful movement.
And the kind of like the cultish behavior about the church and how they really train them to be these right-wing soldiers, and the kind of like homeschooling that they do, and how just completely disturbing that it is. And they do have a couple of the Duggar children who've either left the group or who are willing to sort of talk about everything and how they've really parted ways with their family and why. I mean, I'm sort of fascinated by the psychology of people who buy into cultism, who totally are willing to put their faith in absolutely anything and be like, here's all my money, here's everything in my life.
I just found Joe. Joe knows everything. Right. I'm going to follow Joe.
Right. Yeah. And I find that fascinating because it's like, what in your life, is this a nature or a nurture thing?
Yeah.
Right? Are you just predisposed to be obsessed about something enough to put your children in danger? Next to this Josh guy who's willing to rape a child,
his own siblings.
Yeah, exactly. And that the parents then covered it up. Right, like it's a lot of it is really disturbing. It talks about the family, but more it talks about that religion and how messed up it is. And what the producers have said is, there's so much footage and so much information that we were able to dig up that Josh Duggar is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, of course,
of how bad it is.
This is the weird thing, because I've talked to people who were part of this Quiverful movement. This isn't new to me. We were probably talking about this 12, 13 years ago. Because we had, in fact, I remember a woman who had escaped one of these kind of groups where they have 15, 20 kids, and the idea is to turn them into Christian warriors, and
Yeah.
not just foot soldiers, but people who get into high power positions, and they do a
Yeah.
bunch of networking and wealth building, and weirdly enough, lots of tax dollars go into this, and this is where a
Yeah.
lot of the voucher school stuff comes, and the alternative spending that I know in this state, the crazy religious people want the state to pay an individual number per kid so that they can homeschool and be paid by the state to pump out 20 kids so that they can make a huge amount of money off of them. So for me, this isn't new, and this is another reason why I say you need a license to get a dog, but any idiot can be a slip and slide and have 19 kids. Here it is.
Yeah. Exactly. And you talk about the voucher thing. Texas State Senate just passed the most pro voucher bill that puts something like $500 million into vouchers and cuts their education spending by insane amounts. Oklahoma just pushed through a voucher bill too. And it's like, you look at, I think the Texas one would give $8,000 per pupil to a family per year. And you look at the average cost of private education, and it's like 11,000.
Oh, it's more than that. No, look, I remember when here in this state, we had a Republican representative, a guy named Mike Fulmer, who oddly enough got himself into trouble having some interesting stuff on his computer.
What do you know?
I'm not gonna get into what it was, but it was interesting stuff. They were kids. He had a voucher bill, and I asked him. I said, "Okay, so if I get this golden ticket, you give me this voucher. I've got this golden ticket. Can I take this and take my kids to Abington Friends School in Philadelphia, which I know is about 50 grand a year to go to kindergarten?" And he said, "Absolutely." And I said, "They got to pay all of it, transportation, all of it." "Absolutely," he said. He was trying to get me to believe that I could have this golden ticket and send my kids there, when the reality is his own bill that he obviously didn't write or read was only the amount that the school district that you live in pays. So what it was, really all it was a huge handout to rich people who were already sending their kids to those places, giving them a massive handout and stealing from the local public schools. Perfect way to destroy public education. But also they wanted to go further. Like I said, they wanted to put that money in a backpack. And you could go to a private school, you could go to a charter school, you could go to a magnet school, or you could go to homeschool.
Yeah.
And that's the fantasy. That's the goal here.
Where you can basically have your own cults doing your own education for a bunch of kids, and then get the state to fund all of your money.
Yeah, it's brilliant if you stop and think about it. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Sarah Burris. Sarah's a reporter over at Raw Story, rawstory.com, the website if you want to check out her work. I got to talk about this though, because you can't talk religious cult and horrible education without talking about evidently the new GED math. Maybe you wrote the story on the GED math. Evidently, contraception is too expensive, but having a kid is cheaper.
Yeah. So Lauren Boebert, I know Lauren Boebert, bless her heart, decided that it was more expensive to get birth control than it was to have a child. And I'm like, my birth control is free. Do you really not know how much it is? She's got 4 kids and she's about to go through a divorce. And it's like, dude, do you not understand how much money we're talking about
it's
here?
GED math. I mean, this is, it's all I can come up with. And the scary thing is this woman's sitting in Congress. Because my first thought was, okay, let's just cede the fact that it was going to cost her the $3, which is too much money in her view. Let's say it was going to cost that. She's in a position to change that. She could, I don't know, there's this vehicle that they use in the place where she sits to change things. What's it called again? Oh, yeah, a law. She could write a bill and turn it into a law to make contraception free everywhere and not just in the handful of places that have expanded Medicaid.
Well, there's that. The other thing, though, is it reminds me a lot about the time that she tried to get $30,000 in mileage reimbursements for her campaign, right? And it's like $30,000 for the amount of miles that you would get would mean that you went around the earth like 18 times or something like that. And you're just like, wow, I mean, I am bad at math, right? Like I walk around my life being like I was told there would be no math, right? This is just embarrassing.
That's
Like you are
GED math.
humiliating yourself.
This is Bobert GED math. I mean, it's all I can come up with. Because I heard her say this, and I had to hear it again. I played it like 3 or 4 times, going, "Is this really coming out of her mouth?" Because at the end of it, she kind of jokes, "My team's going to be upset," or "My team's going to." I forget what it was about the team because she knew what she said was really dumb.
Yeah.
But she couldn't help herself. She needed the
Like,
attention.
can you just imagine the chief of staff just like banging his head on the desk like over and over and over again? Like, why? Why do I work for this member?
Yeah, she's a member, all right. Although I guess the sad reality is I'm sad for them. There's a breakup there. I guess her and the husband are Splitsville. I guess he was beating up the kid. Or maybe not. Thoughts?
I mean, the kid was screaming and calling 911 and saying, "My dad is throwing me around the room." And Lauren Boebert said, "Hang up, hang up. He's fine, he's fine." And it's like, what? I don't understand how that works. Like, there's going to be a record of it.
Yeah. Now my favorite part
that it's
was,
already out there.
Yeah, my favorite part was the kid goes, "We've got guns, but I don't think he'll use them on me."
Right? Yeah. Like that was the thing. They're like, are there guns in the house? Do you feel unsafe? And he's like, "Well, there's a lot of guns in the house." And it's just, it's so sad because, again, like we're in this situation with these people who are crazy and we like to make fun of them, but there are 4 kids here that she's got to deal with. And now, I mean, she's going to be gone, right? All week long. She'll be home for the weekends, maybe. And she's got 4 kids that she's got to raise.
Yeah.
And she's leaving her husband. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know how you do that. That's the thing, right? Like it's hard enough to be a single parent, but to be a single parent in Congress is just like impossible.
Well, I mean, she got enough cash flow coming in. She can have someone else raise them for the time being. But
and maybe that's the safe option, right?
Maybe that is the safe option because as I was reading through this, and look, it's a chaotic situation there. It appears from the outside, and I don't claim to know all that's going on, but I do know gun fetish people. Yeah. And I was thinking about the story of the woman here in Reading, not too far from here, who was a gun fetish person who. Went through this, got her 15 minutes of fame because a county sheriff took her gun away, and because she took her gun to the local soccer game with 6-year-olds all over the place. So for about 15 seconds, she was NRA, hero of the month. And it turns out that while she was on the computer doing whatever she was doing, the boyfriend, husband, or whatever they were, just walked up behind her, took the gun off out of the holster that was on the chair, shot her in the back of the head. And when there are guns, that many guns laying around, bad things tend to happen in the heat of moments. And it sounds like there's some heat there.
And for sure, Jason Boebert has some serious anger issues. They have so many complaints from neighbors about him, speeding off through the neighborhood, running over mailboxes, threatening the neighbors. So imagine if that is your life inside the house and that's your everyday.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. Finally, I want to get your thoughts on Jim Jordan.
Why?
I was expecting so much. Comer, same thing. I was expecting, the weaponization committee. I was expecting there's a whistleblower out there or multiple whistleblowers or, who knows, or maybe there's not a whistleblower. There's all their bank accounts out there. There's so many of these claims and comments and stuff that Biden's a criminal. It's all this stuff's out there. Why aren't we seeing anything?
Because there's nothing there. I mean, Comer's already asked for his 90-day extension to try and find more stuff. Today, the only thing that Jim Jordan could come up with is a 2008 chart that's a pyramid of extremism that says that if you're building a right-wing fundamentalist group, usually it begins with people who are activist members of right-wing groups, such as the Republican Party, the NRA, right? That is the baseline.
The Proud Boys,
right? They're not...
the Oath Keepers.
Well, the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers are level 2, right? Like that's where you get escalated to the militia, and then from the militia you get escalated to the, ready to park a moving truck in front of a federal building people.
Right.
So, and all of these Republicans and the Heritage Foundation were just like clutching their pearls all day long and being like, "You're calling us terrorists." And I'm like, would you like to denounce radical right-wing terrorism right now?
Yeah, no.
Please. I would love for you to. By all means, here's the microphone.
No, I say
And
this
yet,
all the time. Why can't why they were for years? Rick Santorum was key. Why can't you denounce Islamofascism? Why can't you?
Yeah.
Why can't you denounce Stuart Rhodes and the Proud Boys and these your marching soldiers? Why can't you denounce that?
Why is it so difficult to say, violence, political violence is bad? And it would give them an opportunity to be like, on both sides, those dirty Greenpeacers like to throw paint on stuff, right? I mean,
and the gay people with their glitter.
Yeah, the gays, they got, that glitter gets in everything, and that's just evil. That's political violence on my vacuum cleaner. So, I mean, like, it would give them an out, but even that they can't do. They won't do it.
I mean,
why is it you love violence that much?
No, violence works. I mean, if you watch, have you been paying attention what they're doing at Target? You get these idiots walking into. Here's my question: why does this stuff never happen in front of me? Why don't these idiots ever entertain me? Because I would love to play with them for an afternoon.
Yeah.
They always go after women for the most part. I mean, the one with the Target, it was a woman worker. They were berating. But here's the thing, and this is where my mind is: if you don't like the stuff that's on the shelf, you can walk by it. I've learned that there's going to be broccoli and asparagus in the produce aisle. I hate broccoli and asparagus. I turn my head and I walk by. It's not hard. We can do it. We can do it.
These are very special snowflakes, Rick. They get very triggered by broccoli. But I had a family member who posted something on from Target that it was a little girl's T-shirt that said Queen on it, and and he was like, "We're never shopping at Target again." And I'm like, "Really? That's the one that you find objectionable? Like, God forbid you see a unicorn with a rainbow coming out of its butt. I mean." You're going to have a coronary at that point.
Is there such a thing?
Perhaps. I don't know. But I mean, the thing is like all of those little girl, clothings that are like pink and purple and say princess and stuff like that on it. Like, what do you think that is? Do you think that means drag queen? That's not what anybody's talking about. Like that. Come on, dude.
No, that's how we indoctrinate girls to believe,
Clearly.
Yeah. I mean, if that's where if your mind is all about grooming and indoctrination, pinks for girls, blues for boys. I mean, that's how I was indoctrinated.
I don't get it. Calling some little girl a queen or a princess is not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But see, I like glitter. So.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and this is my point. My point is violence works. The greasy wheel always gets, or the squeaky wheel always gets the grease. And they understand this, and they're willing to cause as much chaos as possible because they know they've got a legal defense league behind them that no matter what happens, they're going to be okay, and they're going to get more popular because, well, that's what their base wants.
The problem is that you're also going to be doing this in some stand your ground states, and I would be very careful. I mean, we've had this conversation before about how scary it is. Like in DC, everybody honks their horn all the time. In Oklahoma, you honk your horn, you might get shot. If you have some of these people like trying to hassle people in Target and they feel threatened, they have guns. They will shoot you.
Which is why they pick on women.
Yeah, probably. But my mom's got a gun in her handbag. She's walking around packing all the time. Freaks me out. Like, Louis Vuitton on her shoulder, and she's got a handgun in there with a pink handle. I swear to you.
Thank you for that one.
Right? Like, oh, Lord.
Well,
but, yeah.
Good times ahead. And this is where, as I said yesterday, this is where we can finish. They are the loud, they are the squeaky wheel, but they are vastly the minority. And this is where the silent majority has to stand up, has to speak out, because the way you deal with bullies is you gather together and you put them in their place. And I think that's where we have to go. Or
you throw glitter on them.
Or see, I'm not in the throw glitter clan. I'm not there. I know some people like that. I'm just not there. But I get it. I get your take. But Sarah, appreciate the time as always. Good stuff.
Have an awesome weekend.
You too, our good friend Sarah Burris. Make sure you check out the work that she does over at Raw Story. RawStory.com, the website. We'll take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. Listen to the Rick Smith Show. For working people. That's the talk.
Tonight, most of